Hello, hi. For whenever you're watching this, I got a lot of really exciting stuff that I want to talk about. But first, before we do that, this past week I was posting on my social media accounts just like a bunch of different go messages. I think a number of us are in various states of wanting to start things, and there are all kinds of doubts and concerns that get in our way. And a few of those were to go unprepared, to go unpolished, to go uncertain, because our nature, our act of going, where we're going, and who we ultimately serve is a lot more important than like the state of our like kind of getting there. But yeah, so I posted the other day that it's that God will sometimes make our plans bigger than we intend them to be. This was intentionally meant to be an Instagram live, and then I realized that I didn't have 1,000 followers, so I couldn't do it on Instagram, and so that was like almost a small meltdown. But I kept it together, and I'm like, okay, well, how do I deliver the message in a way that it reaches the people that it's meant to reach without trying to find 200 followers in like 48 hours? So yeah, I think that was a bit of that. But I think this is maybe not more digestible, but it's just a different format. And so we'll go with it and we'll see what happens. But I think this has kind of been sitting in me for a while, and I think it can be beneficial. And I hope that it is. And like, even if it's not, this is me going on the journey. So, whew, it was the end of times, it was the beginning of times. And so it was the end of the old way of operating, of existing in the world, and it was the beginning of times and the introduction of a new way of being and existing in the world. And I think that's absolutely where we are. Since COVID, a lot of us have witnessed the collapse of systems, witnessed how the things that we've been after haven't been what we were sold that they were supposed to be, and how where ends may have met or crossed paths every now and then. On the other side, they did that a lot less frequently. A lot less frequently. And then additionally, while we have been trying to contend with the fallout from a quarantine, the hit to our social relationships, we're having to contend with these powerful forces and systems that would much rather us be quiet, much rather us just go to work, much rather us exist in this shrunken state while siphoning as much as they can. So and of course it wasn't just COVID. It's probably been going back at least the last decade or so where things have kind of been shifting. But it seems as if we are expected or trying to be held in this mindless, sick, attention deprived state of being that's just not a powerful stance for us to have. And so for this reason, I insist that we are in an age of illusion and creation. And so here I want to talk about how we can survive and ultimately and hopefully thrive throughout it. So before I get into all of that, because I'm going to say some stuff and like it could be potentially triggering and frustrating. I want to say that I do acknowledge and realize that things are hard, like very much so. Like I also want to, and potentially harder than they've ever been. And I also want to highlight that a lot of the hard is intentional, but while it's intentional, it's also artificial. Like things don't actually have to be this hard. Like there's someone that benefits from the difficulty of many people. So our hardness, our struggle, our difficulty doesn't have to be that way. And so I maybe probably won't talk about all of that, but we'll cover some stuff that'll like at least rub it a little bit. And so I think for most of us, we're suffering at the hands of a few. And like that could be a number of things, and we'll just leave it at that. But in here, I want to really open you up and connect you with the idea that you're bigger and broader than you are, and you're bigger and broader than you've maybe existed. And more powerful part of you in me is available to help us navigate this ever-changing and dynamic terrain. And so as hard as it is, we have a lot more at our disposal that we may just not be aware of or connecting or using. And it'll be especially important because a lot of the chaos that we're going to navigate is going to be manufactured. It's going to be things that just don't make sense and like causing us to say, okay, well, why are things so hard? Like things don't have to be that way. But so I say that because my intention is not to alarm you. My intention is not to put this undue pressure and this undue urgency that causes you to feel like you're not doing enough or that you have to strive for harder. My overall point is that there's more in you and there's more connected to you and more available to you that through using and engaging with, we might be able to better navigate our path. So given this moment that we're in, I think that we're at probably a number of crossroads, but the way that we navigate this will determine like ultimately and essentially like the future that we create. And so my hope is that you weigh what I say against your intuition, against your guidance, and take action that feels aligned and true to you and not stress, because stressing won't help. So let's begin. 3 things that I think that you're going to need to navigate this age of illusion and creation. And so first, you have to find the area, the place where nobody can tell you shit. Like that place of interest, of competence, of ability and skill that doesn't necessarily mean that you're better than everybody else. But this is my domain. This is what I'm interested in. Nobody can convince me I'm not good at it. Nobody can convince me that I am not interested in it. Nobody can convince me that I am not uniquely equipped for this particular thing. You have to find that area. And so here in this place, power isn't so easily taken from you. If I were to say that I want to be a pilot and I don't, and somebody kind of tests that and say, you don't have the eyesight to be a pilot, like that'll knock me off my square. And it's like, you might be right. Whereas if it was something that felt more aligned, like if people were to say you don't have the capacity to be a good psychologist, and I don't want to be a psychologist, but like for me, people and like the nature of the mind, that's my bag. So it's just like, I might not have the skills today, but like I can guarantee you that I can acquire them. And then I have the interest to do that. And so you have to find that area where people can't knock you off your square. They can't convince you that you aren't capable. They can't convince you that you can't learn the skills. And the major reason for this, especially as we go on, especially as we navigate time, is that when you find that area and we come in contact with so many illusions, so many attention grabs, you can say that stuff that is happening is not in my wheelhouse. I can't demonstrate real responsibility or impact in that particular area. But this place that I stand here, this place that I'm deeply interested in, invested in, have skill in, is where I can affect the most change. And then from that place of power where you can affect change, you can have neighboring influence or neighboring support at things that you aren't specifically well versed in. And I think because of the need for our collective well-being and all the attacks on our energy and on our attention, it's not to be callous or flippant and say, oh, well, that's just not my business, and throw your hands up. But it's to say, okay, there's somebody that probably has more competence here, more skill here. And I think we should either rely on them because I know who we can rely on, and not even like, okay, I'm not going to touch this. But if you find your area of effectiveness, and like this author named Gay Hendricks will call it your zone of genius, but like this area where you can influence and you can make major contributions, then your skill, your competence, your authority will have a lot more benefit than it will if you're just like kind of flailing, like I've got to do something. I can't just sit idly by and do nothing. Like that's the importance of this. And I say it because you don't have the nervous system capacity to witness everything that's going wrong. You don't. And you don't have the ability set either. Like you can't solve every single challenge, every single problem that exists now and that's going to continue to exist. Things are only going to get worse before they get better. And so the bigger picture or the bigger point from finding your area is really you're finding that domain that is natural and that already exists within you, where you can draw out your unique soul contribution, where you can most affect the world, because it's what you ultimately came here to do. It's the endless well from which you can draw. And so the most helpful thing that you can do during this time and the times ahead is not to simply witness all this evil, to witness all the things happening, but it's to say, okay, I know that my soul wants to express this. And I can know that it's what my soul wants to express because for my human, I feel satisfied and excited doing this particular thing. I feel like I can't watch all the videos enough. I can't read enough books about it. I just cannot get enough of my field to do this particular thing. Like that is where you can most help and serve in ways that we desperately need. So you have to be locked in. So you can say, I can't affect everything, but this here I can affect. This is where I have the authority. And if things go wrong, I am willing, bold enough, and equipped enough to stand up and say, I can take it from here. I can lead this. I can affect this. So with that, you're going to also have to throw out all kinds of ideas. And this is not necessarily easy, but it's so necessary. All kinds of ideas about this is not practical. I can't exist or be compensated being myself. Like nobody likes the things that I like. That's false because like one, there's a bunch of people in the world. They just might not be like in your neighborhood or your daily environment. But you have to get rid of that because that thing that you might most want to do that feels most comfortable is coming from your soul. And it's coming from a broader plan that existed before we like existed on the planet Earth. So you can't, so that thing that feels natural to you that you kind of push off into a corner and say, okay, well, that's not reasonable. That's not practical. That's wrong. You can't do that and affect and serve in the way that will most likely need you to soon enough. For me, my domain is like expressing myself. It's like psychology. It is personal development. It's expansion. And that's my open road. That's where I can affect the most change. And like I think funny enough, people had said some version of some of those things, like little seeds, but I think more grounded and more planted in that now. But that is my area. Like, if you would say, oh, you don't understand psychology well enough, it's like, sure, fine. Like, I'll just read another book about it. Because, like, that's an area of interest. My neural pathways are already well worn with those topics, those subjects, and those ways of thinking and being. And so that's my area. That's my road. That's my track. And so all of that comes relatively easy to me, relatively easy compared to somebody who's not interested. It's easy to me compared to like somebody who's like a statistician. And so it might seem that thing for you might not feel like natural gifting initially. It might just feel like something that you're deeply interested in. And it also might feel like it's outside of your awareness. So funny enough, for me, a bunch of I would say that I've probably kept a lot of my personality under wraps. Like I'll go on walks in the neighborhood and I will, I won't take phone calls or overly enjoy music because I can't see who's watching me and I want to just kind of keep things neat and tight. It's like neat and tight. But in the past, when I was maybe like unconscious and just like being myself, I would get not jobs specifically, but like roles or attention based on my personality. And it always felt like a detractor from the point that I was there or in any particular thing for. And so it's just like, okay, I have to kind of mute myself a bit so that like we can really focus like on the thing, on the matter at hand. Like it's not a circus. Like I'm not telling jokes here. And then it's only been the last, well, I'll say looking back, I can see how my warmth, my interest in people was a core advantage that assisted in the objectives of any particular, the things that I was a part of. And so it was only been like the last 18 or so months I've kind of arrived at the conclusion that like, oh, my personality, my expressiveness, my humor isn't distinct from and can be separated from my mission. I am meant to deliver truth and perspective and ideas in a way that's humorous and light. And so by doing that, I integrate my identity and I stop walling off from myself, my potential, my ability to serve, and my broader capacity. So the thing that is an area of service, an area of impact for you might feel like it's outside of your awareness because it was that thing that kind of got in the way over the course of your life. Like maybe you were someone that like talked a lot. And so you try to make sure you don't talk as much. But the alternative is that you speak to groups and crowds of people based on things that you're interested in, or any number of things. But like you won't always feel confident in this particular area. So the idea of like being my unguarded, naturally expressive self is new-ish, but it doesn't. Without all the study that I've done on myself, it wouldn't have come naturally. I don't think I would have arrived at that conclusion. It would have always felt like too much. It would have always felt like it didn't fit. But that's the other point, is that confidence is not first. Confidence isn't, it's not that your area is not like, oh, I feel confident in this thing. It's like, this is where I'm interested. This is where I feel gifted. This is where I can and would like the most help. And then confidence will come after. Confidence will come after you kind of acknowledge that to yourself. After you say, yeah, like I can do that. Like that's something that I can contribute in a very unique way. And like I can work on it. And so you also can't get too ahead of yourself in this process, because it might seem like something small that has the ability to both grow and also connect with other things. So for you, it might be, I like doing hair. And then doing hair might then morph into and stretch into the ability to help people recognize the parts of themselves that are beautiful. And then it could stretch to the ability to recognize where people don't feel confident and how to grow that confidence. It could very well stretch beyond that to being able to recognize that unique thing about a person. So once you decide your area, over the course of development, over the course of study that kind of comes with, you ultimately become the tool, the vessel by which other people are helped and served. So it's like, if you say, oh, liking comic books is not enough, you can't see that through the study of that, you would learn the nature of the hero's journey, and then how to recognize where people are in that path. Like, oh, that reminded me of my favorite manga, where this character was navigating this particular thing, and then they did this to meet this challenge. So like, it's, if you divorce from yourself that thing that feels most natural to you, you won't, in the journey, uncover the treasures that can then cause you to reap rewards that you can't particularly foresee, and that wouldn't exist on another path. So like, if you want to get paid to go to like Comic-Con and you say, oh, comics aren't enough, and then you say, oh, I got to be practical and realistic, and then I need to be an accountant, then you might attend Comic-Con, but you won't be sitting on any panels because like you chose the other path. So that's a thing. Let's see. And so what are ways that you can kind of figure this out? I will always say, like, look at what the thing that you would rather be doing. Like, if you are typically doing tasks and it's like, oh, after I've rested, if the task like exhausts you and tire you out, you say, oh, I would rather be doing this thing. Consider that. Consider your watch list. So the bookmarks on Instagram, like your saved list on YouTube, your television show that you watch. Like, your life is like a dashboard where it's maybe got some stuff on it that you don't want, but like it's got elements on that dashboard in your face that are pointing at areas of interest that are seeds of potential. What else? Yeah, like family stories and things that people have always said about you, like, oh, this person does this, oh, this person is going to be like this. When I was in either the 5th or the 6th grade, like we had superlatives in class at the end. Like you'll have a pizza party and like superlatives and stuff. And and first I'll say that in the 6th grade, I think we were mostly in our seats for most of the year. So we weren't like moving around and like doing things. So like I was completely shocked and befuddled at this result. But we did the superlatives and like, oh, I thought we were just having a pizza party. Now we're getting prizes and candy. And they said the most likely to be a teacher, and they gave me Sour Patch Kids. The Sour Patch Kids were delicious. I was just like, a teacher? I was like, how did y'all come to? And first of all, a lot of respect to teachers. A lot of what I've learned has come from teachers, but like kids don't respect teachers, and I don't like being disrespected. So the idea that I was like a teacher, and given the dynamics of the classroom and like how we were seated, I don't know how they got to that conclusion. But I have some ideas. So even stuff that doesn't feel like it will make sense in the broader picture of your life could be clues to, okay, this might be an area. And so the value of this, the value and the importance of finding your area is that with the advent of AI, those people I think who strive and who succeed and who do well as we move forward aren't those people that can learn skills the best, can learn skills fastest, and that just have hard skills. It'll be those individuals who can say, who have a vision and who have a distinct thing that they want to see. So if I want to see people grow and be themselves and figure out who they are as an individual and serve from that area, that box, that square that is uniquely theirs to have, then if a tool rolls out, if like a way of study comes out that serves my unique aim of I want to help people be individuals and serve from that place. And so I'm not swayed by a lot of stuff. If people roll out a new crypto technology, it's like, does that serve this broader thing? I'm not going to be swayed and like, okay, well, maybe I should go over there and try things. Because like the area then becomes like an umbrella that you can fit all kinds of other things under there. So you got to find your area. You got to find a place where nobody can tell you shit. Next, kind of in conjunction with that, you're going to have a dream. You have to have a dream. Before now, focusing on money, on surviving, might have been enough to have a decent life. And like, even if we go further back, it would have been enough to have a satisfactory retirement. And that's not the case. Currently, in like now, and especially in this moment, that nothing is safe. Nothing is untouchable anymore. And so stability is a ticking time bomb. It's like sitting on a beach while the tide is coming in. It's just like, you can sit there with your Bluetooth speaker and your book and your iPad if you want to, but like the tide is rolling in and eventually you're going to have to move. So you can either move now while all your stuff is still dry and you still got your resources, or you can wait for the tide to come in and you're going to have a very different day. And so additionally, focusing on money or survival or being more successful than someone else isn't powerful enough and isn't impossible enough to summon all of your untapped potential and abilities to task. It won't activate your imagination, it won't activate your genius, and it certainly won't activate the latent gifts that you have and that you're already using, which is kind of like on autopilot. So you have to have a dream. And like these mundane considerations are required. It's important, but they still don't galvanize the unique resources that we have as humans to serve us in a way that benefits us. So you have to dream, like you have to dream. And so that word's been used a ton. And I don't mean just like sleeping dreams. Like that's, you're going to do that anyway, if you remember it or not. So I'll define my use of it here. When I say dream, I mean a vision or a picture of life, work you love, or a state of being that extends ideally, and essentially far beyond your current resources and your knowledge on how to attain it. Like, it's like a picture that feels like I don't want it to feel way off in the distance, but it feels like that's the big thing. It feels impossible and it feels stretchy. It feels like who I am now is not that person over there. Because like the thing of when you reach far beyond yourself into the unknown, it's likely that it feels and looks different from how you're regularly operating. Because the fact of the matter is you don't see all the things that you're doing just in a natural state of being anyway. You also don't know all of your capacities, which is why it feels so far away. It feels like I have to become a different person to attain that thing. When it's more likely that you just have to be a full person to attain that thing. And so if it feels beyond you, it's because you haven't called into action abilities and capabilities that are natural, such as this is not the chat for like the nervous system. So we want to talk about the nervous system here. But well, I'll keep going. We'll figure that out. But when you're trying to bring something unseen into form, you have to rely on things that are unseen to do it. Like attracts like resources. And so if you are dealing in the imaginal, if you are dealing in what feels impossible, things that seem impossible have to happen to kind of meet that thing. It's chemistry. It's like attracts like. So it's like if you know that you want a house and you have to have $15,000 down, and you immediately go into, I know how much I make, I know how long it'll take to get $15,000. This is where I can cut back. This is where I can put these kids to work. It becomes one-to-one. It's like I use myself as a resource to acquire the end that I want. But then so your untapped resources, your imagination, the ability of your heart to kind of orchestrate circumstances for you is not necessary. Like you sat firmly in your mind, you said, this is what I need, this is a comfortable amount of stuff for me, and this is the work I gotta do. And so after you do all that grinding, you're probably gonna be tired. And also you won't necessarily be the better for it, but you'll have the house. But if you dream of like starting a business or developing like a developmental center, that's going to cause you to need and use resources that you're not already using. First of all, creativity, like, okay, how do I do this? Networking, like who do I need to talk to? What do I need to create? But then also unseen resources as it relates to people. It's like, I can't run the whole center by myself. So who do I need on my team? Who can do this specific job? And then I mentioned earlier about like a broader plan that was already in play before we like did Earth. Then people who say, oh, I have been wanting to be a chief of staff for a long time for a community cause that serves kids or some stuff like that. And then like that unseen resource that you never intended becomes available because you're dreaming and you're considering the big thing. But if you never dream that big, if you never stretch that big, and to be fair, you're not going to even dream as big as was possible to you. So like further, go bigger. But if you never think that far off into the possibility or the impossibility, you don't get to see like the magic that can happen as a result of living a human life and like the energy that kind of gets kicked up. It's like if you dream, and the other thing is like dreams don't have to be like this lofty thing to kind of change the entire world. Like the way that things are kind of fracturing and fragmenting, it's likely that your change in the world will only be like a large or whatever pocket of people. It's not going to be the entire planet. Now, the ripples might do the planet, but like, whatever. That's whatever. But like, let's say that your dream, you have like a mini dream of like running a 5K or a 10K or like a 13.2 or whatever. I don't know. And that says, okay, I need to start getting up earlier. I need to be more organized. I need to be more focused. And so that dream then organizes not only your body, but your attention. You like, I can't just be on the phone till 1 o'clock in the morning because I got to get up early to go running. And so that thing, that temporary North Star reorients like your whole life. Then the people around you are like, oh, you just seem happier. It's like, you don't have to do the long story of like, oh, I'm running every day. So like I'm getting a daily infusion of endorphins and norepinephrine and like all of that stuff. Like it's just like, oh, you just seem like a really good in a really good mood. Like maybe I'm gonna run a 5K. But and then you have people, whatever. You have people standing at the thing at the race, like passing you bottles and stuff. People you didn't even see, your family, but then people you didn't even see. But like even Jeff Bezos, like he had a dream of something that was far off from where he was. He was looking into something that was unseen, and then now the unseen resources that we call cousins and family members now work at Amazon. So you have to have a dream. You find your area, and then you have a dream, and then the things that you feel like you don't currently have then finally appear. And so when the dream is beyond you, its impact and all the people it reaches becomes far beyond you as well. And so your unseen resources and aspects will be used. Your attention, your creativity, your imagination, those things are going to be used. If not by you, somebody else. That's why there are so many ploys, so many plots to get your attention. That's why the internet feels like an attention superhighway. It's not just to it's not just to distract you. It's not just to get your energy. It's not just to keep you from doing anything else. It's to take your create from formlessness energy and then have you co-create a nightmare. So this dream capacity, this capacity to go from formlessness, void, nothing into matter, existence, and social agreement is always running, is always active. And so somebody's going to use it. Somebody's going to benefit from it. Yes. So I think also, and like, I think the thing that kind of spurred this is like, I had this idea like a while back, and like, I just felt like I couldn't get it out in like a 90-second reel. But I think in addition to like unseen resources and help and capabilities that we haven't been using, I think that we have access to more ideas and more insight than we typically do or have. And so I was on a walk one day, like, I mean, they're regular walks, but they feel legendary. I was on a walk one day and I had this flash of insight. And so the best thing I could do was like kind of draw it out. Like I posted this a couple times. So I remember stopping and like on the sidewalk, was like kind of writing this down. Like this regular person. But this jumbled blue is our daily minutia, the thing that we're always thinking about, the ways that we're always thinking, the way that we're considering things. Like when we get in the car and we drive somewhere and we just don't remember how we got there, or we kind of remember, but we think about something else. That's just a daily jumble. But like if we reach a little bit higher, like there are, I don't know, I feel like waves of energy and higher potential and higher value and higher possibility thoughts that are just available. And so if we can just periodically, not even all the time, think a little bit higher than like the daily jumble and see, oh, okay, like if I think in this higher, more helpful way, I can approach my work with new activities, with new ideas, with new insights, and experience things differently. And like I think you can see this research also in those Gothic cathedrals and churches and like tall buildings. When a space is taller, it is something that it does to the brain where you're thinking your brain waves operate differently, such that you think in a more creative and expanded way. I think considering the difference of the bigness and the openness of those buildings, as well as like being outside whenever this thought occurred to me, is contrasting that with like a little tiny cubicle with like the harsh fluorescent lighting, with like being in this little box and like having to kind of think of this small thing, or like your computer with a lot of big things on it, but like in this like really small kind of scrunched up area. And also contrast it with like the level and nature of your thought when like you're on a plane. Like I think many people have said, oh, I'll get my best ideas whenever I'm on a plane. Like I enjoy reading differently on a plane. And like there are all kinds of thoughts and reasons for that. But like I think in a way it goes back to like when you're in the daily jumble of thoughts, like I've been looking at these circumstances, this environment, this problem, this thing the same way forever. And so I think my suggestion, my recommendation would be like to approach your work in a way that is different and novel and fresh. If it's maybe a new scent in your environment, like new colors, and if not physical in your experiential environment, consider the fact like when approaching work with a little bit of openness, like, okay, what's here? Like, what am I missing? What more is there? And just like kind of reach a little bit higher mentally to see, okay, what is available to me and has always been available to me, because like, I feel like above the daily jumble, there's just possibilities that exist that I can employ here in this thing that I'm just kind of like always approaching, or this new thing that I'm trying to figure out. Like what benefit and help might that bring me? And see what comes to you and see what new paths kind of open up or just make themselves available to you in a way that they always have, but you just wasn't aware of. Let's see. But yeah, I think there are new approaches and new things available to us. I don't think that like there's a different, I think a lot, apparently. I think the chaoticness and the speed with which everything is moving is also emblematic of the speed or the ability for us to kind of think through and move through things. I think those kind of mirror each other. And so if our attention is in the daily jumble that is now moving faster than it ever has, we don't reach a little higher to like that other stream of thought that is just as fast, if not faster and lighter, that we can then utilize towards something that we actually want to be a participant of and that we're actually choosing. And so I haven't researched this, but and maybe I'll give it some more thought, but I have other things I need to, whatever. I think the antidote to dystopia is creativity, is fully embodied, like creating things. Like I think I've seen a bunch of people talk about how like in a lot of the houses, like a lot of the flooring is gray, the buildings are kind of repetitive, and like all of those things are reducing the level of daily inspiration that we can find and kind of regularly be moved by. And so I think the counter to that, and I think it takes more effort because it's not just native in our environment as much as it used to be, is creativity and not simple art projects. I don't want you to think creativity and immediately think about painting. You know, like you might really enjoy painting. Like it is the thing, that area that is yours represents a way of thinking. It represents a mental model. It represents a way of kind of approaching and creating. Like it's just the way of bringing from nothingness to formlessness that's natural to you. Like that's how I would define creativity. Like my creativity is not like somebody else because like the mechanism by which I bring from formlessness to creativity to form is different from anyone else. But I think the antidote to dystopia is that fully embodied like human creativity. And it's gonna be used, like I mentioned before, it's gonna be used to create something because it's generative. It's generative, and you're kind of always giving off this energy that can make things possible, that can make things happen, that can make things form. And so I mentioned, I recently wrote on Substack a post called Pandora's Heart. And I mentioned that the age that we're moving into is Aquarian in that like there's a lot more technology, there's a lot more focus on groups and like collectivism and humanitarianism and being a human. And so the counter to that, the sign of Leo, is about creativity, about play, it's about romance, it's about courage. And so the counterweight to that is our being human and not losing those aspects of us that are kind of lost in the machine, that are like swallowed up by the machine. So you have to have a dream. You have to have a dream. It is uniquely yours. It doesn't have to be super big. Like every night that you go to sleep, you dream. So you can kind of filter through them. And if you have the issue of like, oh, well, the thing that I want changes, like my dream changes from week to week. First of all, you get 10s for that. But second of all, like you ain't know, it's not that different. And in that, I would say track like, okay, this day I wanted to be a doctor. This day I wanted to do this. This day I wanted to do this. And like, given that we are infinite vessels, but kind of finite humans, so think of like a tube that doesn't have an end, but finite tubes, I feel like there's a pattern in that, kind of like a beehive with like the different like things. I feel like there's a pattern in there that if you track the dream over time, you can see, oh, there's a picture here. And I can take action somewhere in this, or I could just dream the picture somewhere in this and then reach higher in my thoughts to find the action that is here. So even if it's like, oh, I can't decide on something, there might be a bigger something in there that could also just be the picture of the big dream that you kind of get to sample before you really get to work on it. And so also, if you're not like the person that is like kind of filtering through dreams a couple times a week, if you're not working on or feel like you have anything or you kind of lost, I'll go out on a limb, and similar to this, it's like you don't have to stress too much. I would take the question of what is for me to do? What cause or what can I serve? Or what am I regularly watching? Or what am I interested in? I would just kind of hold it in your mind, in your body, in your spirit, and live. I would I would hold, if I were trying to figure out, and I don't want to use the word purpose, but like, I mean, essentially, but I would hold the idea of like, what can I uniquely do? What is my area? And I would just kind of live. Like I would maybe do some activities because I'm me. I'm gonna do an activity. And I would just live. I would watch things. I would go on walks. I would hang out with friends, and I would just be open and available for the answer to that question, the answer to that. Because there's often like an obviousness to it that we can't see because it's obvious. Like if you have like if you have the physical anatomical structure of a horse, like 4-legged, the hooves are shaped in this way, you might be good at running. And you're strong too, you might be good at carrying things. But like you're not a horse, and like that's a whole other thing. But I also imagine that God, however you visualize it, or that being, as having dreams and visions and plans that are ready to be deployed and just need someone to carry it. And you have a unique construction and configuration that you can carry, something very specific and satisfying because it's kind of woven in the pattern of your construction that can be taken to the world, that can be experienced in the world. And so with that, you have to be okay with the feeling of it feeling beyond you. Like whenever I think of like a dream or like a thing that feels beyond me, it feels kind of uplifting. It feels like I have to kind of rise to that thing. And like that is when you have it. And I want to say have it, like it doesn't change, but you have, this is where I can feed my attention and my energy to, instead of this thing over here, and then this thing over here, and then this thing over here, and then this thing over here. So you have to find your area. You got to have a dream. And it needs to feel ideally beyond your current capacity, your knowledge to attain it. And that's a dream, baby. And so finally, you have to guard, steward, and amplify your energy. Like that is paramount right now. We are in such a pivotal moment in the world. And I won't go into all of that here because I could, and we'd be here all afternoon. But I encourage all of us to follow and stay informed, and to follow specifically people who encourage us and prepare us to take practical and realistic action towards things, but not feel responsible or the need to know and to watch and to consume everything. In addition, I want to highlight it is important that you guard your vibrational contribution. Like you existing, because think about when someone that you loved was in your life and that they weren't. Like you didn't necessarily, or unless you did, you didn't necessarily miss them because they stopped doing a specific thing. You missed their energy and how they existed. So we're always offering like a vibrational and energetic, a mood or emotional contribution. And so it's important that you learn how to guard that. And it's like, okay, not watching everything, not hitting yourself with like a dose of media and cortisol before you are to do something important or valuable to start your day. It's to, I said, amplify your energy. So also finding those things or doing more of those things that you really enjoy. And I think with everything, like there's a way to deepen that thing. Not like make it profitable, but like if you like knitting, like maybe if you knit things for friends or people that you love, not necessarily to sell it, like how do you add more joy and more excitement to the thing that you're already doing? And so I call this the age of illusion and creation, because all we see and are engaging with and being demanded to engage with is keeping us stuck in so many things, in so many artificial ways of being and artificial hardness. But also like a lot of that is preying on our evolutionary foundations of like, how do I say it differently? Like evolutionarily, our physiology can be hijacked. Like if we can be kept in a state of fear, we'll stay in a state of hypervigilance. And so if we regularly see things that disempower us or make us feel like we can't really do anything, then we are kept in the greatest illusion of all, which is that we are mortal and that we are only these bodies. And then also that we can't do anything, we can't help because all of this stuff is in our face telling us it's only this one way. And that we are inconsequential. And it's like, I guess you got to give it up. But you are a shard of the divine, and you are always refracting and reflecting marvelous light in the marvelous magnificence of your being. Like always. People see it, people enjoy it, people participate in it. And so I also call it the age of illusion in creation because one is our shared energy that's kind of creating this experience, like on a broad scale. But it's because what you do with your energy and your attention and what you do from your area and your dreaming that represent the energetic building blocks of the future that we're all going to live in. And so we're affronted and accosted by all these illusions, saying, look here, look here, look here, look here, look here. When meanwhile, it is extremely important for us to be focusing on, like, what is it, if I lock in, what is it specifically that I'm to be creating? And how do I take that thing, make it bigger and make it raise to the level of a dream, and then focus on that and then feed that with my energy? It's not all destruction. Like, it looks really bad, but it's not all destruction. And so it's important that you guard your energy and you be a good steward of it. Like, and not with any stress, not with any guilt, not with any beating yourself up. Like, oh, I spent an hour or 2 hours kind of just scrolling again. Like, if I heard, maybe you've heard, that if shame worked, it would have worked a long time ago. Like, if you could shame yourself into being better, baby, you'd be the best. But not beating yourself up, but being like, how can I steward it better? How can I be better? Like, I mentioned before, like, the internet now, it feels like an attention superhighway, and that's by design. Like, I think that I saw a post or like an article or whatever that said that bot usage is higher than it's ever been on like a bunch of apps. And like on some apps, it's as much as 70% of the account usage on the app is bots. So a lot of the opinions, unless it's somebody that you went to high school with and you just like, enough. That's not my case. Unless it's, you have to consider that a big percentage of people that aren't vetted that you don't know could potentially be bots. And so you're being bombarded with ideas, with rage, with perspectives of hopelessness and anger and things that keep you in that purely physical, physiological human state and not in that creative, open, I'm a shard of the divine kind of state. I can kind of create what I want to state. And all of that being bombarded is taking your dream energy and like siphoning it to create destruction, to create hopelessness, to create fear. And so as long as you are focused on the latest breaking news, you cannot possibly be creating anything that you would actually value. And that's just the bottom line. Let's see. And like, I don't suggest that you in the least bit turn a blind eye, you in the least bit act like, I don't see that, I don't see it. But you can't affect everything. And the thing that you can affect, you aren't affecting if you're in helpless witness mode. And you're not a helpless witness. You're a powerful creator, but like if you aren't creating, if you aren't saying, oh, I've been told my entire life that wasn't possible, but I'm choosing now that it is possible and I'm going to give my energy to it, then you summon and work from that place where your power actually comes from so that you can then affect change and affect things. But otherwise, like, you're just on a daily rebuffed by like all of the awfulness, all the evilness. And so there's got to be a balance. And so I mentioned about amplifying your energy. So you've got to, as regularly as possible, maybe it's a day out of the week, maybe it's immediately after work, maybe who knows, but you got to reach for joy, for excitement, for the thing that you really love and like, and not at the expense of everything you see, but to better solve problems and align with the powerful part of you. If you don't know how to do that, if you don't know how to find joy or what activities really kind of light you up, that has to become priority number one, that you kind of find that. And like, it can't be a vice, like just watching television. It can't be something that like feels out of your control. Like it's, I won't add stipulations here, but you got to find something that like, okay, I do this thing or I experience this thing or I enjoy this thing and I feel better. I feel uplifted. I feel connected to like possibility as often as you can. You have to find that feeling of awe, that feeling of wonder. Like, I do not go to church and I am not a Christian, but gospel music is still on the playlist because there's some of it because, oh my God, because there's this sense of reaching higher, this sense of awe, this sense of wonder, and connecting with that is like uplifting and kind of internally expansive. And so by not just guarding, not just stewarding, but amplifying your energy. Once you are in that state, like then you can reach for that higher frequency level of thought of like, okay, how can I approach this problem from a new way? I want to work on my business today, but like, okay, how can I change it up? Like, what can I do before? And maybe you work through the night. Maybe you go outside and stargaze for 30 minutes, and then you kind of approach things from a new perspective. And so I'm working on a bunch of stuff that I think could be helpful, a bunch of stuff that is in this same vein because this is my area. But I think more important than the things that I do is the energy that I'm coming from, is me existing in this particular way. This last week or so, I was thinking of a new way to think about my work, and just the fact that like this life is like energetic and this life is a bunch of things, but that I think about work as energetic evidence. So if my energy is in I live in impossibility, I am helpful, I am in the square of like personal expansion, my work is just evidence of that state of being. It's not that I just do the work and like it needs to make me feel a certain way. It is like, and that's the recontextualization that I'm still working with. So like that one might not be so neat, but as equally important as what I create is like the energy that I'm creating it with and that I'm bringing to people. Like if somebody, if you had a restaurant and it's the food that you wanted and somebody just gonna like slide it down on the table like a Frisbee, it's just like, okay, yes, that's the food that I wanted, but like the delivery and the energy left a lot to be desired. You're getting into that energy on my pasta. Like that's, so it's like as important as the thing that I'm doing is the energy and the spirit with which I'm doing it in. And like there's a huge, broad, universal current that your spirit, your mind, and your body knows well. And so we are, again, like affronted and accosted by all of this stuff because then we misuse our minds to pull ourselves out of that current because like, oh, well, that's not helpful. I can't do that. Like that's not profitable. Like I got to make sure that I'm focused on surviving. I'm going to stay right where I am. And so then you pull yourself out of that broad universal current that is guided by this experience makes me feel bigger. This experience makes me feel more helpful. And your soul knows how to navigate. Your soul knows how to navigate on this plane. And I'm like learning that myself. I haven't figured it out for certain. Well, not for certain, really, I'm certain. But the embodiment of that, but like all of this stuff happening is not a surprise to the core parts of who we are. And even the heart. The heart is more intuitive than the brain is. So like it's not, we are typically more shocked after our hearts are. So like there's a lot more available to us, but you have to trust yourself, you have to live as yourself, and you have to fight as yourself. And so fighting as yourself is like, this is my area, this is what I can contribute. I'm gonna have to take your word for it because I don't know anything about that, but I'm gonna contribute and help where I can. Tell me where to put my hands. You have to fight and live as yourself much more, and consistently on this stuff later. But I remind myself of the quote all the time that in every moment, there are deep veins of possibility available to you. And so I see how crazy and how dark things are. And I can see all the reasons to despair and to be hopeless. But I always remind myself that at every moment, there are deep veins of possibility available. And so we must not lose hope. And so I don't mean hope and like, oh, I'm just going to sit on my hands and kind of hope that things get better. I mean like an active, passionate, courageous hope. Like a hope that I'm hoping for this future and I'm doing my work to support its coming into form. Like hope and love and courage. And like the funny thing about love, and I'm not talking about love and life. I'm not talking about love and life. But I think a wide variety of things, I think love is capable of and is a motivator of a lot more than we kind of give it credit for. Like there are those, and this is not of course typical, but like there are those I haven't seen the videos, but those experiences where like a person lifts a car off of a child, a person runs into a burning building to save somebody. Love is not this passive thing. Love is not this thing that's just like, oh, well, we love each other and we're kind of holding hands. Like no, love fights. Love is courageous. Love stands its ground. Like love says this is my family, this is my home, and I'm going to protect it. And so I'm not saying to suggest that like those are the actions to take. But I mean that if we're motivated by love, it should be this assertive, passionate, forward moving about a thing that we want to see and create. But bear this also in mind, and this has brought me like a surprising amount of relief. You are going to die. Right? You're going to die. But for now, though, you are pure power and pure energy, kind of focused in this, depending on your state, like this frail, like human form. And so while you are in this human form, as many things as possible are going to try to vie for your attention and that pure, positive, and powerful energy that you could be working with, and from you not using it. Like, how dare you? How dare you think that you have the ability to be who you want to be? But there is power in yourself. Like, science would call it mitochondria, or like whatever. But like, there is so much power in you and so much potential in you that people recognize. If people recognize that, people are willing, trying to make sure that you don't know that. So think of a car. Like, a car is combustion, a car is gasoline, a car is all of these systems running and moving. And then once you get the car in motion, it's really just like the flick of a wrist. The flick of a wrist in like a 2,000 pound car moving. God knows what speeds. And it's not, you can go look at that as like an effortlessness. Your body is like that. And so your body, is in motion always, but then it's moved by your intention, your action. You don't think about it whenever you get up and put your feet on the floor in the morning, or you start moving throughout your day. But there's so many processes that happen that you just don't even think about. But you are power, controlled and directed by your attention, your intention, and your action. So start choosing. Like, a lot of us don't choose. A lot of us feel like we're powerless. And then people are going, all right, thanks so much for that power you gave me. Thanks so much for that attention. And so you don't have to choose, because the system certainly will. The system of survival, bill paying, staying afloat, like being entertained. And that's not a criticism, but like being entertained, like, though they will choose for you. So like, you have to say, okay, this is where I'm focusing. I'm interested in finding my area, my square. I'm interested in how do I turn this into a dream, and then live as optimally as possible for your own purposes. Like, that's the whole point. It's a whole wrapping up and closing. Like, if you show up to life as yourself and you trust that what you are best equipped to offer and do is the most beneficial and will be helped in the world, you can exist, and offer something that you haven't been before. And I'm realizing that every day. I'm realizing that as I'm on the internet live, like speaking and communicating. But you're doing that along with everyone else, or just some other people contribute to the unfoldment of something we haven't had the opportunity to experience. And so we're going to be bombarded with illusions that hope's lost. There's nothing else to do. And trust me, I'm a former pessimist. I see how bad it looks and realistically how bad it can and will likely get. But you haven't been this version that you're about to be. I haven't been this version. And I trust you. I trust you in what you're able to do. But it's going to require trust, courage, and faith, though. It just is. Like, that is written in the stars. And I've said it before. If this is the end of days, if there's nothing else that we can do, act like it. Act like it. Go out with your friends, live with reckless abandon, not reckless abandon. Love more deeply, say the scary thing. If this is the end and we have no other options, your weekends, if you're going to choose to keep going to work, if it's the end of days, like, your weekends need to be a lot more jam-packed. Like, don't let it be some passive resignation. If you're going to be resigned to, like, there's nothing else to do, live a little unleashed. Throw care to the wind. Like, go ride a horse. Say what you mean to say. Like, if it's finished, stop acting like it's business as usual. But consider this. Can God, your creator, your inventor, your designer, give you something big that you're willing to steward and to form into its completion? And like, I don't mean that it has to be this big thing that serves everybody, but like, if there is a dream that has your name on it, and it just needs your physical earthbound mechanism to turn it from a dream into a shared reality that you offer people, will you steward it? Will you carry it? Will you take it and do the daily activities of making it matter? Like, or will you just say, oh no, that's beyond me, that has my name on it, but it's not mine, and that's too big, so I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to rise to that or go on the journey that will form and forge me into the person that can handle this thing. Like, what do you do? Like what will you do with that? And so, like, there are so many problems. Are you willing to be a solution to some of these problems? Like, you don't have to come trained. You also don't have to interview. The job of being yourself is always available. The job of affecting the people that you are uniquely capable of affecting is always available to you. You just got to choose. And so, like, finding your area is really just kind of like choosing what it is. And so the actions that you take from that position that cause you support from that solidity of deciding, that solidity of person, will reverberate in ways that you can't see. Humans aren't meant to be so powerless, so inconsequential. And I don't think that we are, but like a lot of us kind of walk around and kind of carry that around. But the fact of the matter is that you are the fabric of the future. Like, we are the fabric of the future. And your thoughts, your actions, your beliefs will determine the weaving of that future and what we ultimately live in, what we ultimately experience. So, in closing, you got to find a place that nobody can tell you shit. Like, this is my area. This is what I'm interested in. This is what I'm capable of. And you have to have a dream. So, like, okay, this is what I want to see. This feels beyond me. This is where I will need somebody else's help. This is where this is where I want to be a hit in this country. I don't even know how to get there. I don't have a passport. Like, you have to find a dream. It has to be beyond your current capacity, what you know and what you feel capable of doing. And then you have to guard, steward, and amplify your energy. Your energy you are able to create a lot of stuff with your energy. It's currently creating in ways that you probably don't realize. And so you have to decide, okay, I'm going to guard that. I'm going to steward that. And I'm going to take my energy and focus on something that matters to me. And so in that way, I think that is how we will survive and thrive in this age of illusion and creation. And so that's our time, folks. I am so grateful. I'm so thankful for you being here. I am glad that I was willing to go nervous and unpolished and uncertain, because like, this is the area from which I want to work. This is the area from which I want to serve and to operate. And I'm inviting you to find your areas and do the same. This is, like I mentioned, where I want to serve. So if you have some uncertainty and where you are unsure, like, I trust that I will in some way be able to speak to it. But yeah, and so this is where you can find me, and that's all I've got. But thank you so much. I think that we'll be okay. Like, I think I'm always looking at like a broader timeline, and like, the fact of the matter is we extend into eternity both forwards and backwards. But like, in like an Earth timeline, I'm always looking at like, over the long term, like I think we'll be okay. But I think in the present, it will require some capacities that we've not tapped before, some capabilities that we've not seen before that require us looking into the unseen. And so with that, thank you so much. I will talk to you again another time. Bye-bye.